Let's take a look at the bend deformer here in Cinema 4D. What we're going to do is we're going to take a cube and pop it into the scene, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to grab the bend deformer. Now, in previous versions, what we would do for the bend deformer is we would come over here in a four-way view and play around with the size, because you want to get the bend deformer as snug as possible on the object. So we do something like that, and then we take the bend deformer and we'd come back over here and put it as a child of the cube, and then we'd actually start bending the object. Okay, that's all changed. What we do now, let's put a cube in the scene again, maybe make it a little bit taller, something like that. And we select the object and hold shift down and select the bend deformer, and it automatically puts it on there all snug. So we're good to go. The bend deformer, like all the deformers, work on parametric objects as well as polygonal objects. So what we can do now is we can come up here and we can bend this object, and we can control the angle that the object is bending. Now, probably noticing that something looks a little strange here, and that's that it is trying to bend the object, but the object is staying straight. Now let's go ahead and turn on our lines so that we can see the reason it's staying straight is because there are no subdivisions here. So if we select the cube and start adjusting the subdivisions, then we start getting a bend. Okay? So really, if we just adjust the subdivisions on Y, we should be fine. So let's just keep it at 70, and now we can bend this as much as we want, and we're going to get a nice looking bend. Just make that 180 degrees and frame that up, and we have a nice bend. Now, like I said, we also have an angle here, so we could control the angle of the bend. Something else we have here, let's take this back up, is we have a keep y-axis length. If we check that, what it does is the object keeps its original length before we started to bend it. So if we uncheck that, it's going to bend, it's going to sort of grow. But if we keep this one checked, it's going to keep its original height in this case. And like most other parameters in Cinema 4D, this is all animatable. And that's something you know by the little dots next to the parameter. Okay, so let's say that we took this back to 180 degrees, and this is what we came up with, and we like this. Again, we can always come up here now, right click, say current state to object, and we have a new object, so we can get rid of these, get rid of the bend deformer, and we have a brand new object here that's all bent. Whenever you do this, you typically are going to want to recenter the axis, because you can see the axis now is right here. So if you go up to Mesh, Axis Center, Center Axis to, then it centers the axis to the object again. Pretty important when you're working, otherwise you're going to get some undesirable results when you're moving your objects around. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's go ahead and put another object in the scene. We'll take a sphere, hit O on the keyboard to center that up and frame it up. And let's go ahead and let's take our segments to something like 70 again. So we have a lot of geometry here. And with the sphere selected, we're going to hold shift down, and let's try the bulge. And let's take a look what happens when we start playing with the bulge deformer. Okay. So we have some interesting things going on here. We can turn on fillet. We can turn on the curvature. So you can see right off the bat, you can get some very interesting results, even though the object is still parametric. Now, the mode that you have in all of these are limited, within box, and unlimited. So with limited, the entire object is affected. You've got within box, and within box, only the surfaces within the blue bulge are affected. So if we resize this, you can see it's having no effect up here, but it's only having effect within the blue box. And if we use unlimited, everything is affected. Now I know that the unlimited and the limited sound very similar, but with the limited, let's just pull this back up. What's going on here, the entire object is affected, but surfaces at the height between the top and bottom of the blue box are bulged, and the other surfaces are translated if necessary to accommodate the bulge. So that's the difference between those two. Let's take a look at one more deformer here. Let's go ahead and take another cube, drop it in the scene, make it taller, be a little thinner, maybe something like that. And we'll need to come in here and put quite a few more segments in. Let's do something like that. Let's grab this cube, hold shift down, and let's use the twist. All right, so let's just go ahead and start twisting this out. And you can see right away we're getting some really cool looking results here. So if you wanted to do a modern fancy lamp or something, you could use the twist deformer on this. And really, you just wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing if you didn't have the deformers. I mean, if you had to try and model something like that, it would just be a huge, huge pain to do. So these deformers are incredibly powerful. Let me go ahead and show you one more. I'm going to grab a box, cube, make this 20 by 20 by 20. I'm going to select the cube. I'm going to hold shift down and I'm going to find my FFD, which is right there. And basically what this does is it creates a cage. Let me turn the cube off. It creates a cage around the cube. And I can choose how many grid points that I want. Let's say that I want 5, 5, 5, depending on how much control you're going to need. And then what you can do is go into point mode. So let's turn the cube back on and maybe go to the cube and go to the basic tab and turn on X-ray so that we can see this a little better. Maybe in this particular case, we want to turn garage shading back on, not lines. Now, if we select the FFD, we can come up here with the rectangular selection tool and we can start grabbing points and adjusting them. So let's say that we wanted to grab these two rows. And we've got another point there that we don't want. There that we don't want. We don't want this one. Didn't grab the right thing there. We don't want that one. So we've got this row. We don't want this one either. And I can take this now and sort of move this around. And it's moving the cube around, right? So let's grab these. And let's say that I want to scale this down a little bit. And really I should probably grab this one as well. Over here and grab that. And then we could scale this down. But basically what it does, it creates this cage around your object and lets you mold it however you want based on these points. So you just select the points and you move them around, get them exactly where you want. And this is definitely one way that you could model. Okay, so that's some of the deformers here in Cinema 4D.